It's the most potent vaccination is getting infected
yourself. What about
yourself.
wearing a mask on an airplane?
Well, wearing a mask is unlikely going to help much.
Seemed like a political stunt from Republicans, but which is now spiraling into what may be a humanitarian crisis.
A child will often know that they are transgender from the moment that they have any ability to express themselves, and parents will often tell us this.
Dr. Fauci announces that he's stepping down. The illegal immigrant crisis in New York City is bubbling over. And also, the Boston Children's Hospital says that kids will know they're transgender from sometimes the moment that they're born, not recognizing that kids, for the most part, are dumb. All that and more coming up on this episode of Daily Caller Live. My name is Jobob. Daily Caller Live starts right now.
2, 1.
Here we go!
Might be the only brown guy on earth named Jobob.
That is actually their name, Jobob.
Live from the dingy bunker, completely cut off from the outside world, except for you fine folks. My name is Jobob. This is Daily Caller Live. On today, it is August 23rd, the year of our Lord 2022. Thanks so much for tuning in. Got a lot for you today. Chief Misinformation Officer of the Health Department of the federal government, Dr. Fauci, announced that he's stepping down. We'll get to that first. And also the whole transgender, there's a sports story. There's a Boston Children's Hospital stuff. Holy cow, there's a lot going on there. And then also probably the best political stunt in the history of politics. We'll get to that too. I want to get to this. This is what everybody's talking about the last day. Dr. Fauci announced that he will step down in December. So not entirely as soon as we all would like it to be, but Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's top infectious disease expert, who became a household name and the subject of partisan attacks during the COVID-19 pandemic, announced Monday that he will leave the federal government in December, after more than 5 decades. Let me know in the comment section, are we cheering for this? I feel like yes. Finally, and there's a lot of people out there who probably rightfully so were saying, hey, Fauci should be tried in a criminal case and probably sent to jail for the amount of misinformation that he spewed upon the American people throughout the COVID pandemic. That article that I was reading was from the Associated Press, and I want to read a couple of really, really freaking interesting things, especially considering how people are covering this sort of thing. Again, this is from the Associated Press. Just some they talk about a bunch of background of Dr. Fauci. Well, the COVID-19 pandemic introduced him to millions of Americans. He's been giving straight talk to the nation about numerous outbreaks, including HIV, AIDS, SARS pandemic, flu, Ebola, and the 2001 anthrax attacks. They're talking very highly of one Dr. Fauci. Has anybody seen, let me know in the comment section, has anybody seen the movie Dallas Buyers Club? It is with Matthew McConaughey. His character contracts HIV and then goes and gets non-FDA approved medicine or drugs from, I believe, Mexico or South America. Some doctor that was working on them and then brings them up and then figures out a way to sell them illegally because they're not federally approved. Anyways, Dr. Fauci was the villain in that movie, or at least one of them, the one stopping from the then experimental drugs from being used in a medical setting. So Dr. Fauci has been the villain for a very long time. But nevertheless, this is what I thought was freaking hilarious. This is from the Associated Press. Known for his candor and for the ability to translate complex medical information into everyday language, Fauci has been a key advisor to 7 presidents, starting with Ronald Reagan. Known for his what? I tweeted earlier. That's from the Associated Press. Again, I'm going to read this one more time. Try not to fall out of your chair with amusement. The Associated Press said known for his candor, except for lying to us, literally, and admitting that he lied to us about the COVID pandemic, and the ability to translate complex medical information into everyday language. Was that what he was known for? That was what Dr. Fauci was known for? The fact, remember at the very beginning of the COVID pandemic, he said, nah, masks won't work. This is, again, I'm just quoting, not giving any sort of partisan belief on how I think you should have responded to the COVID-19 pandemic. But Dr. Fauci early on said, no, we don't need masks. We don't. That's not going to help at all. It's not really going to do anything. Then later on said, no, we should mask. We actually should double mask. I lied at the beginning because I was worried that people were going to buy up masks that were needed for hospital settings and for nurses and doctors and other healthcare workers. Admitting that he lied to us because it was going to be good for us. Dr. Fauci. Now, I wanted to play this clip from, I believe, 2007. I could be wrong on the year of that. Wow, a lot of people in the comment section. Edward says, to prison. Matt says he should have stepped down years ago. Such a worm. Yeah, there's a lot of that. Wow, a lot of not nice comments for Dr. Fauci here. I want to play this clip from, was this C-SPAN? I think in 2000, either 4 or 7. Dr. Fauci talking about the flu virus and vaccines and masks, interestingly enough. Now, don't worry, Facebook. Don't worry, Instagram. We will put the medical disclaimer down here to show that this is disinformation coming from Dr. Fauci right here. We'll do that for you. Also, if you haven't already, there's a couple thousand of you watching this on all of your different platforms, your Twitters, your YouTubes, your Facebooks. If you wouldn't mind, click the little like button or the little reaction button or the share button if you feel so inclined, or let us know in the comment section how you feel about Dr. Fauci finally stepping down at the ripe old age of 81. Why are so many of our freaking quote-unquote leaders so old in this country? Just engage with the post in any way, shape, or form, especially on Facebook. If you're watching, that really, really helps us out. Anyways, watch this. Dr. Fauci spreading misinformation about vaccinations and masks. Check it out.
Had the flu for 14 days. Should she get a flu shot?
Well, no. If she got the flu for 14 days, she's as protected as anybody can be, because the best vaccination is to get infected yourself.
And
So
she should not get it?
if she really has the flu, she definitely doesn't need a flu vaccine. If she really has the flu,
She should not get it again.
no, she doesn't need it, because it's the most potent vaccination is getting infected
What about
yourself.
Wow, holy cow. That's the most potent vaccination is getting infected. Wow, that's just a fascinating thing that Dr. Fauci said, and is apparently misinformation. That'll get you canceled and thrown off of YouTube. Anyways, what about masks, Dr. Fauci? What about those? Do those help at all?
What about wearing a mask on an airplane?
Well, wearing a mask is unlikely going to help much. If you are coughing and sneezing, that could help then. But just a normal person going on an airplane and wearing a mask probably is not going to help out much.
Kitty Hawk.
Huh. Interesting. Now, again, obviously he was talking about the flu, the specific flu, that, I don't know, the everyday average cold flu. Coronavirus is a form of a flu. People called it the Fauci flu. I'm not sure why, but obviously, given the context, it's not the same exact thing. But it is kind of interesting that Dr. Fauci said all of the things that a lot of us were saying, and also turned out to be right on. Or the whole masking thing, I think in most cases just didn't work. COVID is still out there and still infecting people. Fortunately, it's not killing nearly as many people. One, because the virus downgrades itself, or at least tries to survive, and doesn't infect people nearly to the extent poorly as it used to. And also, and you might hate me saying this, but I think the vaccinations have helped old people not die from the COVID. So there's that. Anyways, what was I saying? Oh yeah, Dr. Fauci saying that getting the flu is the best way to protect yourself. Wow. Wonder if the same thing works for COVID. I want to get to this story because I think this is interesting. There's like several facets of this. First of all, this photo. If you're just watching this, if you're watching this on Facebook, if you're just listening to this, you don't see the Facebook. Blah. You don't see the chyron if you're just listening to this. This is an Australian rules football player named Hannah Muncie, who is a transgender man, if you couldn't tell by the obviousness of this photo, playing a contact sport with biological females. That doesn't ever go well. I've scoured the internet, believe me. I've tried to find a photo of Hannah just annihilating people on the contact sport field. I cannot find one. But I wanted to put this photo on there because this is where I think people are headed, specifically in this particular story. Utah, if you didn't know this, had banned trans athletes from competing in sports, rightfully so. By the way, everybody agrees on this, by the way. If you're a biological male who decides that they're a woman, geez, there's so many layers to this. In your older age, if you're an adult in your mid-20s and you decide you're a transgender and want to do whatever you want to do, I don't care. I wouldn't advise you do that, but I don't actually care. My problem is with children and obviously women in sports. But Utah banned transgender girls from playing sports, but there's a court ruling that has come out that's going to put a stay on that. Transgender girls in Utah will be given the opportunity to participate in girls' sports as the school year begins after a judge last Friday reversed a ban pending legal challenges from parents. Instead of an outright ban, transgender girls will now be sent before competition to be determined by a case-by-case basis if they can participate. Utah's Republican lawmakers created a commission in the law passed earlier this year as a fallback plan to be implemented in case of an injunction under the law. So basically, they put in an outright ban on transgenders. Pretty much all transgender. Transgender girls is a biological males. Okay, I get these confused all the time. If you're a dude, you can't play women's sports, says the legislation of Utah. But in case there was an injunction, which there is now, a court saying, no, there's some parents for some reason out there saying, no, the transgender girls who are biological boys should be able to compete against girls. They're filing a lawsuit to stop that law. A judge has put a stay on that. So the Utah Republicans that put up the law basically said, hey, if you're, we're going to judge it on a case-by-case basis. Because there are some clear and obvious big fat no-nos, especially when it comes to more aggressive sports. I wanted to bring this quote on. This is actually becoming my favorite quote. This is a quote from Abraham Lincoln, not a man of modern day politics. This quote was sometime in the 1800s, mid-1800s. This quote from Abraham Lincoln I thought was fascinating and pertinent to this particular story. It said this, and quote, "How many legs does a dog have if you count his tail as a leg? 4. Saying a tail is a leg doesn't make it a leg." Interesting insight and wisdom from the 16th president of the United States. Now, I also wanted to play this. This is not related to this sports story in Utah, but it is from the Boston Children's Hospital, regarding a doctor talking about when kids know that they're transgenders. Now, again, I've said this numerous times. In adulthood, I wouldn't recommend that you go get transition surgery just because I don't think I think it's pretty clear and obvious that there's a lot of problems that arise from that. But at the same time, you're an adult. What do I care what you do with your life? I just don't. I don't know. If you're going to go decide to do whatever you want to your body, who am I to stop you so long as you're not hurting other people? You can't participate in sports because duh. But if you're just going to live your life, I don't care. But the kids thing is where I have a problem, and I think a lot of us have a problem. And by a lot of us, I mean the overwhelming majority of us have a problem. The overwhelming majority of people do not agree at all in any way, shape, or form with what you're about to hear from the Boston Children's Hospital. This is a doctor talking about when kids, which again, none of us are for, know that they are quote unquote trans. If you haven't already, click the little like button or the little share button, or let us know in the comment section what you think about this next video coming up. It is bizarre and crazy. And this person is a medical doctor who works with children. Check this out. We'll talk about it on the other side. Watch this.
A child will often know that they are transgender from the moment that they have any ability to express themselves, and parents will often tell us this. We have parents who tell us that their kids, they knew from the minute they were born practically, and actions like refusing to get a haircut or standing to urinate, trying to stand to urinate, refusing to stand to urinate, trying on siblings' clothing, playing with the quote opposite gender toys, things like that. There is more and more a group of adolescents that we are seeing that really are coming to the realization that they might be trans or gender diverse a little bit later on in their life. So what we're seeing from them is that they always sort of knew something was maybe off and didn't have the understanding to know that they might be trans or have a different gender identity than the one they had been assigned. So that is a growing population that we are seeing, and that's being recognized as being trans and able to be treated.
Yeah, so that's from the Boston Children's Hospital. What is this lady's name? Jeremy Carswell, medical doctor. Yeah, I don't even know. Okay, all right. I'm reading some of you in the comments section. Who is this nut job? Ryan, frequent correspondent Ryan says, for the love of God, stop. Charles says, wow, sick-minded doctor. And there's also calls for her to lose her license. Yeah, so again, here's the good news here, I think, in this is that freaking everybody agrees with the fact that, hey, maybe let's not touch children who think that they might be a different gender. Maybe let's not mutilate their organs to on the off chance that maybe we're right. Again, this lady saying, like, from birth, the children who might try pee standing up or play with the opposite toys. I think I played with Barbies quite a bit. I think my Barbies and Power Rangers, my sister's Barbies, I don't know, fought in that. I don't know. This is not a. I don't know. Since when are we trusting kids? I actually got a little bit of pushback. I think on when I was on the Candace Owens show, I said, "Hey, kids are dumb." I still stand by that, by the way, but I think it was kind of the way I said it was probably a little mean. So I don't know. Kids are dumb. When's the last time you trusted a less than 1-year-old to make any sort of decision? When's the last time you trusted a 5-year-old to make a life-changing decision? Hey, Johnny, we are thinking of buying this house in this area, but it's not necessarily an up-and-coming area. It's actually a rougher neighborhood. What do you think about this major financial decision me and your mother are going to make? I like penguins! We'll take that as a sign that you don't want us to make this financial purchase, Johnny. Thank you for your opinion. All right. So there's that. I want to get to this. This is actually kind of interesting coming out of the state of Corruptifornia. There's a couple things that's going on here. This in the world of everything is okay and everybody should be able to do whatever it is that they want. We have a glimmer of sanity coming from the state of Corruptifornia. Gavin Newsom is running for president. That's the first thing that this thing says. He's 100% running. We talked about this a couple weeks ago when he ran that ad, I believe on the 4th of July, when he was running an ad in Florida. What he's doing is trying to pit Gavin versus DeSantis. He's trying to get the entire media world to say, well, it's Gavin running against DeSantis. That's the 2024 presidential election. But he's also doing things in the government sense of being at least a little sane. This is a glimmer of sanity coming out of Corruptifornia. Dang it, this way. Corruptifornia. T-shirts available now on my Instagram page. Governor Gavin Newsom on Monday vetoed a controversial bill that would have allowed supervised injection site pilot programs in Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Oakland in an effort to prevent drug overdose deaths and connect people to treatment for addiction. So basically, the California crazies, the Democrats who have supermajorities in both houses, passed a bill that was going to create a pilot program to inject people with drugs supervised by the government, essentially legalizing fentanyl, heroin, meth, all of the super hardcore drugs that nobody should do. The government was going to sanction them and then also provide a location for people to use them. That bill passed both the House and the Senate barely. Both houses of the legislature narrowly approved the bill despite having a Democrat supermajority. Moderate Dems often split with their caucus and joined Republicans in opposing the measure or abstained from voting at all on it. But Gavin Newsom vetoed that bill. Again, in a glimmer of sanity in the corruptifornia state, the number of safe injection sites would have been authorized by the bill could have induced a world of unintended consequences, Newsom wrote in his veto message. Wow. Interesting. Gavin Newsom having some sense of sanity in vetoing a bill that would have made it legal and encouraged the government. The government would have encouraged people to do drugs. So that's, I guess, a good thing coming out of the state of corruptifornia. Bottom line, that basically shows me that he's running for president. He's trying to be a little bit more sane, which also is a problem in then knowing that he knows the other stuff that he's doing is just to rally his base. There's other stuff that he does that I'm sure he doesn't actually believe or agree with that get passed through the legislation and therefore written into law because he's trying to gain the support of Democrats around the country. This, I'm sure, is just an attempt to make sure that he is well-liked among some moderate Democrats who aren't fallen for the super woke ideology. So we'll see where that goes. Lastly, I want to get to this story, which I think is, I've said that this is the most effective political stunt ever in the history of political stunts. I said it, in April or May of this year when Governor Abbott of Texas said, hey, we're going to start busing people to Washington, D.C. and New York City. I was like, yeah, this is a political stunt. It's funny, but it's, it is what it is. It's a political stunt, and Governor Abbott's running for re-election, and it's a maneuver that's going to try and get him more attention. I was right, by the way. This is a political stunt, but I didn't have any idea how effective it would be. It is working to a hilariously positive degree for Governor Abbott and for Arizona Governor Doug Ducey. Watch this clip from the 11th hour on MSNBC. They obviously talk about it in different terms than we would talk about it. Not different terms, in a different tone than we would talk about it. But the busing illegals to New York City and Washington, D.C. is becoming hilarious. I thought when this was first going on, it's going to be one or two buses, and you're like, aha, you have to deal with it. But they kept doing it. And watch this clip, and we'll discuss some of the components about how these quote-unquote sanctuary cities are dealing with this. Watch this.
The buses keep coming to New York City and Washington, D.C. At first, hundreds, now thousands of migrants arriving in the Northeast after being sent by the governors of Texas and Arizona.
The need has outstripped our capacity to respond to it.
This is reporting on an issue that at first seemed like a political stunt from Republicans, but which is now spiraling into what may be a humanitarian crisis. Migrants sent by the thousands on cramped buses from Texas and Arizona to cities like New York and Washington, D.C., where they are said to be arriving thirsty, hungry, and in the dark about what happens next.
That was a weird laugh. This is hilarious. Again, political stunt, political gambit, political maneuver, whatever you want to call it. The buses of illegals going to New York City is hilarious, especially how your New York-based media is talking about it. This is actually some fascinating numbers here. The Big Apple, this is from the New York Post, could be on the hook for more than $300 million per year to provide shelter space in hotels for newly arrived migrants, the Post analysis shows. City officials have either rented or announced plans to secure roughly 5,800 hotel rooms over the last month in response to the influx from the southern border, which quickly overwhelmed the already strained homeless shelter system. The people in New York talking about this over the weekend were hilarious. I couldn't really find any solid clips to bring to you because a lot of it was in print. But the New York Times had a big old piece of just, we can't handle this. This is just rude that the Texas governor is doing this. This is unsustainable. We can't have this. All while not mentioning at all that, yes, this is what Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas have been dealing with for the last year and a half. Especially the numbers that they started saying, too. There's like, oh, there's 1,000 people coming in. Oh, no, 1,000? Whatever will you do with 1,000 people? With 5,000 people? Yeah, how about the million that have been coming across the border that Texas and Arizona and New Mexico have been having to deal with? When they're saying, we can't handle this, Texas, Arizona, Mexico, New Mexico are saying, yeah, we know. Also, there was a guy on ABC that I saw talking about this. ABC actually is, interestingly enough, covering this story fairly well, the major mainstream media. They're at least providing both sides. But some guy on ABC was saying, when are the Texas taxpayers going to have to stop shouldering the tax burden of buying bus tickets? But this, I think, this article from the New York Post, I think, does that justice. Not does it justice, but explains it pretty well, that New York City could be on the hook for $300 million per year. So people in Texas, the Texas taxpayer that this dude on ABC was advocating for, when are Texas taxpayers going to stop paying for bus tickets to New York City and DC? Well, if you weigh them out, there's people that you either have to house at a cost of possibly $300 million per year, according to the New York Post for New York City, or a $200 bus ticket. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and assume that the Texas taxpayer is going to be more willing to give them a bus ticket than having to house, feed, clothe, educate, medicate all of these people for however long they're going to be there. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good deal for the Texas taxpayer. One of the largest operations is planned for the ROW NYC Hotel on 8th Avenue in Midtown, where officials are looking to rent as many as 600 rooms and provide intake and other services for recent arrivals. Officials said Monday that they were evaluating the 4 proposals to run the site. Records show the ROW was previously used for city officials to provide shelter to as part of a $139 million contract with the Department of Homeless Services, inked in January 2021, which City Hall has shelled out $147 per rent per day. So they're renting out hotel rooms per day for the tune of, what is it, $139 million. This is like hilarious that New York City is going to have to deal with this sort of stuff. Assuming that DHS can secure There's some confusing parts of this article. Bottom line is thousands of hotel rooms are being rented, and I'm sure the citizens of New York City are kind of going, yeah, hey, maybe we can just stop with the rhetoric of, well, they need to stop sending people here, and maybe we should start hounding on the Biden administration to take care of the southern border and fix the problem at its source. So there's that. There's a little bit more to get to. Shoot, I wanted to bring the veggie dog on here. If you're not familiar with that video, maybe we'll show it tomorrow. You know what? I'm not going to spoil it. We're going to show it tomorrow. But as far as stories go, that's going to do it for us today. Appreciate you sticking around, tuning in, watching each and every morning here on Daily Caller Live. If you haven't already, give me a follow on any of your social media accounts. Just type in Jobob to pretty much anywhere you'll be able to find me. Twitter, Getter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Truth Social, Freedom Squares. What are the other ones? I don't know. There's a bunch of other. TikTok. You'll be able to find me there. Just type in again, Jobob. Anything to announce coming up? I've been teasing this other big announcement that we've been working on for months. Eventually, I don't know, we'll get to that. But until then, have a good rest of your day, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow with, oh shoot, what was the one thing? The veggie dog thing, and also, oh shoot, what's this? Oh, okay, there's this other video that I'm excited to bring some stuff on tomorrow. Maybe we'll hit on some of the Trump Mar-a-Lago FBI stuff, as that is an ever-evolving story that we're not going to know the answer to for months, probably. But yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. Same time, same place. See you then. God bless America.